Hello and welcome to Bull and Specs, the podcast that tries to reach the places that other podcasts, well, quite simply can't. I'm Shane O'Connor, and he
is Adrian Lacey. Hello.
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 New people to this podcast, and there are new people joining us every week, so if you have done, thank you very much for that. Subscribe, like, do whatever you can to spread the word for the podcast. New people probably won't know that what we do at this stage is we talk about the kind of week we've had and the things that we've done. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. I'm not sure how upbeat or otherwise this is. I had a pleasant drink in a cocktail bar. Stick with me on this.
Cocktail.
I know it's not normally my stomping ground.
I always think of
place.
Don't You Want Me Baby from the Human League when anybody mentions a cocktail.
In fact, I'm sure it was you working as a waitress.
As a waitress, that's
strangely,
right.
Yes. Cross-dressing. Well, you know, it was the swinging West End of London.
Bit of a snore.
It was happy hour. I think I brought the mood down, as I usually do, as you know. Wasn't it? That was in the Young Ones, wasn't it? Or was it was a Mickey take of the Young Ones? Neil turns up and happy hour has to come to a premature, abrupt end. But anyway.
No, I can't believe it. Anyway, go on, you're in a cocktail bar, yeah.
And originally I had this pure motive, which you won't believe, but of it was 2 for 1. So I was going to have one drink and donate the other one to someone else. Now, people may not know. I think you might know because you're a very moderate drinker like myself. Are you not?
I hardly. Not by choice. I just it makes me a bit ill. I don't know why.
Right.
I got to about 45 for some reason, and my body went, "That's it. You've done enough drinking for one night." And I just feel really. So it's kind of enforced. Sort of abstinence, as it were. So yeah, but go on anyway. Yeah. So you.
Well, I'm much the same. My body tells me, we're not really getting on. It's like the guy who ate something that disagreed with him, and then this speech bubble comes out of the stomach. No, you haven't. And never mind. It's quite visual.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then after I had the first drink, and there's only one drink in the world that I've come across that actually makes me feel more alert, and even then, it's only by a small degree.
Oh, go on.
And it's very boring, really, in cocktail terms. It's not a fancy Manhattan slap you on the back and spin me over 3 times or whatever they're called against the wall. It's just a G&T. It's quite simple.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
plain and simple. But after the first one, I thought suddenly that second G&T is looking very attractive, and I have no one I want to donate it to other than to myself. But this is where it gets really sexy. I started you're getting on when you start talking about colitis medication with your friend in a cocktail bar, because that's what I ended up doing. No word of a lie. We swapped notes.
You had a G&T and 2 pints of colitis medication. I'm going to go and order
just
that.
as well, yeah. Exactly. I was gargling it at the time, yeah. So I thought I just caught myself having this conversation. I thought, blimey, this is what it's come to, and is that how it all ends?
Was it?
You just talk medication.
Victoria Wood, God rest her soul, what a fabulous artist she was, and didn't she used to do that in her stand-up routine, and she'd say, I'm at a funny age now, she said, and she said, I'm at that kind of age where you go past Boots and you look in the window and they've got some Scholl sandals and you think, oh, they look comfy. And that's the thing, isn't it? When you get to that age, you kind of think, I'd rather be at home now, just having a rest and not raving it up a bit.
Yeah, or as Reagan said, Ronald Reagan, former American president, of course, lest we forget. You're getting on when you have 2 alternatives, things you could do of an evening, and you choose the one that gets you home by 9 o'clock. It's the same kind of deal.
Very true, very true.
Anyway, tell us about your week, Shane. Never mind mine.
Do you know what? I've got to tell, just before you do that, the last time I was in a cocktail bar was in 1980 something. I didn't know they're really kind of... Are they a big thing down south, are they?
I don't think I'm educated enough in these things to actually be qualified to answer that. I don't think so, no. But I have to say there are quite a few what I would call younger people there. Of course, it's a relative term.
I
so
must
maybe it's catching on.
We love travelling. That's me and my wife, not me and Adrian. We love travelling. I always love Southeast Asia. Because whenever because you do tend to go out there, don't you? Go and you'll eat and go out and socialise and that sort of thing. And whenever we're on holiday in that kind of neck of the woods, they always have the cocktail, and they always have a cocktail bar pianist piano. In fact, if you go to them, I think it's still there because we couldn't get a reservation last time we were there. But if you go in Kuala Lumpur, if you go to the Menara Tower, which is not the twin Petronas towers, this is the single tower. They've got a revolving restaurant at the top, which is amazing, and they fire fireworks off the roof at about 10 o'clock in the evening. It's incredible, it is. But their revolving restaurant has got a guy on the piano doing the old Barry Manilow and Billy Joel. And
oh, lovely.
Oh, it's awesome. It's fantastic.
Piano man.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Anyway, sorry, I digress. My work, it's been a bit frustrating, but a bit rewarding at the same time. Do you know, we moved house recently, and I think I mentioned it once or twice, and part of moving house these days, Adrian, in the sort of the modern world, is that you have to fight with a number of companies, generally utility companies, namely amongst them will be the gas, the electric, and the telephone companies, because things go wrong. They don't always get things spot on. They don't always do things that you expect them to do and that you've asked them to do, or that they've said that they'll do. Case in point here, BT, who were a nightmare when we moved in and redeemed themselves and were very generous in their compensation, and that was fantastic. But I got this long ongoing saga with my water supplier, who for some reason, and I still don't really know why, the house that we live in was and it's the only house in the postcode, so it's there's not a lot of properties around it, but for some reason it was registered as a business premises.
Right. You think that was what they might call a legacy issue? Some previous occupant, then they called it that somehow. Somewhere
along the line. And what we think happened was that the water supply comes in and it branches three ways to two houses and one farm. And we think that what happened was that they said, oh, this is all going to the farm, therefore it is commercial. Anyway, long story short, the people who we bought the house off had tried to get it registered as a residence rather than a commercial. No luck at all. And I was at my wit's end, and I was kind of getting batted from pillar to post, and they're going, oh, yes, we've got your request, and then nothing had happened, and then this went on for about 3 months. I haven't had a water bill. I don't know whether they're going to come to me and say, right, you owe us this now, it's a huge amount, or I don't know whether commercial rates are more expensive, or what. I'm kind of all up in the air about it. And then my wife had the bright idea and said, should we have a look and see if we can find the CEO's email address? I don't know, have you ever done this?
I haven't. I've heard of people who do it. I can never find them myself. You managed to find it.
We found the CEOs. I should mention them actually because they were great in the end, shouldn't I? It's actually South Staff's Water, and I can't remember the guy's name, but I found the CEO and I just sent him a note and I said, look, this is my problem. Is there any? I wasn't rude, nasty, or anything. I just said, this is my problem. Is there any chance that you could get your executive team to have a look at it? I'd be really grateful. And within an hour, he'd emailed me back. Within 2 days, they'd sorted out the problem.
Gosh.
And in a way, you kind of go, that is brilliant. It's fantastic. Because you've sorted it. In another way, you kind of think, but their systems failed so badly that I had to try and find the CEO's email address just to get it sorted out. I don't know. Should I be happy? I don't know whether I should be pleased about that or not. I'm mixed emotions.
Yes, well, I think, overall a happy ending, but it just shows you the power of someone at the top to intervene. But please, I'm on tenterhooks now. How did you find the CEO's address? Because I suppose I haven't ever been patient enough to dig that deep.
Well, wasn't it a while ago we were talking on this very podcast about the delights of Dr. Google?
Ah, yes.
Well, we just put it into the Google machine, and I put in CEO of the water company, email address.
You can't argue with Mr. Google or Dr. Google or Ms. Google, can you?
There was a website that came up actually that had just got a list of all CEOs from various organisations, got their email address in there. How valid they all were, I don't know, but this one was as well. But yeah, we were so pleased that it all worked out, and now they've got us down listed as a reservoir, so we don't get water at all anymore. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It's flooded out. But it does remind me, I did see a story in the last few days of fibre optic cables being run along Victorian sewers in London. How do you like that?
Oh, wow. That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. It reminds me of that. I was only just watching the other day. Did you see that Britain Beneath Our Feet? I think it's a repeat from some time ago. Where, what's that guy's name? He looks a bit like Richard Hammond that does stuff for the BBC.
Sure, it isn't Richard Hammond.
I don't think it was. No, he's got an unusual name. I can't remember his name. But anyway, and he was down under the sewers in London tackling one of these fatbergs.
Oh, right. No, I did read about it. I didn't actually see the show.
And the guy said to him, I mean, you can only imagine what the smell would be like down there, but the guy said to him, he said, "What do you have for lunch?" And he went, "Oh, don't worry, we'll see it in a minute." So I don't know what the poor fellas leading the fibre optic cables down there get on with. They must have to contend with the smell as well. But so a bit of a result anyway. It's not a bad week, actually, then. You spent it in a cocktail bar. Well, part of, not all of it.
Talking about medication.
And I got my water supply back on. Not bad.
Yeah. Well, we know that sexual harassment is in the news at the moment, with people of high profile in Hollywood. Well, that's what it started with. Putting that to one side, it's the kind of fallout from that. An interesting poll from Sky Data, which I think is the polling division of Sky, with 51% of respondents saying they're unsure where the line is between flirting and sexual harassment.
Wow.
Which, that's a huge number, isn't it? I mean, it's a narrow majority, but it's a big chunk. And it's quite serious, isn't it, really? Yeah. The difference between, especially as we enter, heaven help us, Christmas office party territory at this end of the year. Passing a compliment to a colleague, be they male or female, it might have a bit of a sort of sting in the tail potentially this year that it didn't feel like having in previous years. Do you think that's quite a surprise, that figure? I do. I'm really shocked by that, and I think it is. It's really bleak for the outlook of humankind as well. It's the different. Isn't this the same argument, I suppose, in a different guise? The people who don't know the difference between smacking a child and child abuse, and whether people agree with smacking a child. I don't get into that issue now, but do you know what I mean? It's that kind of, there's a line and you don't know where it is. It's frightening, isn't it, really, that it's so many people? But it's, I suppose, when you look at some of the stories that have come out, Adrian, over the last few weeks about lots of people making historic claims about lots of other people, and then muddying the waters. Who was the one that was supposed to have touched somebody's knee? And it wasn't about that at all. It was about something completely different, And the mud gets stirred up in the water. Nobody really knows what we're talking about. What happened? What was the allegation? It was just. It all gets very vague. I think that's part of the problem, isn't it? In a way, do you think? I mean, I want to believe that the legal system's robust enough that, they're going to throw out, what do they call them, vexatious claims, or just, iffy claims where you couldn't come down one side or t'other, so you're not going to put someone away. But you do worry that for every case thrown out, there might be a percentage where it just hasn't gone the way of the defendant, and they're kind of shocked by that.
I read, and I thought I'd kind of imagined that I'd read this story that was doing the rounds recently. I'll read you the headline. It's from Mail Online, the headline. It said, "I had a dream about you last night. It was very nice." That's a quote. And it says, Labour MP Kerry McCarthy reveals the love note she was sent and later told to bin by Kelvin Hopkins in 20 years of upsetting and unwanted attention. And so on the face of it, you can understand why people are starting to get confused and not really sure about what sexual harassment is, because people are thinking, well, hang on, if you send a note to somebody and say, I really like you, is that sexual harassment? But of course, when you realise that it's over 20 years, you think, there's probably a bit more to it than just one letter. But I suppose this is how it starts. Isn't there some kind of belief that we should have in people that they should have the strength to say this is unwanted at the time and that you stop it? Is that unrealistic to expect that people should do that at the time, do you think? I don't know.
Is there a bit of either a British cultural or perhaps more English cultural thing of squirming, doing anything other than telling the truth?
That is a really good one. I never thought it was a cultural thing.
You're making me feel uncomfortable. Yeah.
Do you know what I immediately
Which is
thought?
not to trivialise the issue, but sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say that what I immediately thought was this was to do with power. So if the person doing the harassing is the boss of the person being harassed, then you can understand the dynamic there, that if I say anything, I could get the sack, or I could get into trouble at work, or do you know what I mean? It's that kind of so there are other dynamics rather than the ones that you just assume are there at play. But why politics? I mean, who was it that said that politics is entertainment for ugly people? Why?
I love that phrase.
Well, it's great, isn't it? Why do you think it's so... This is the thing that really perplexed me. Why is it so prevalent in... Is it because it's a power thing, do you think?
I think so. I think it's the P word, isn't it? Because it's almost like, car manufacturers, they make cars, obviously, but politicians deal in power. That is the very stuff of what they're dealing with. And so the possibility of abuse of power, and then one of the interesting things, and why we hear about things later on, is where the power dynamic can be reversed or certainly changed. For instance, that very troubling allegation by the TV writer about being groped at number 10 by a sort of a Downing Street aide. Well, she wouldn't be talking about it, I don't think, or she wouldn't have been heard at the time. But or maybe that's not the best example, but some of them who've come through the ranks, as it were, and then speak from a position of greater power in later years, that's when the power dynamic is reversed, and they've got a chance of being listened to, and they've got a voice. You
mentioned the British thing, which I think is a really good point, because I'd never even considered that. It is, and unless you are British, you probably don't understand just how British people are, and the do you know what I mean?
It's not just about the tea being the right temperature.
No, but if you try to explain it outside of Great Britain, people go, "Are you kidding me? Is that it's like, oh, you don't mention sex and things like, and all that, so don't mention anything really if you can possibly help it." There was that side of it. The other thing that I can't help thinking, I don't know whether, because we're both old enough to remember the 1970s, although we were much younger, and I wonder whether that decade is on trial in a way, because it was a very different decade. The thoughts were very different. Thoughts about immigration were very different. Thoughts about sex and sexuality were very different. We'd come out of the 1960s and we hadn't really grown up. And I remember Carry On film style programs were on the TV.
Benny Hill.
Exactly. And like, you kind of think, and so for people who've lived through that, you kind of think actually the 70s were harmless in that sense. But I wonder whether now that decade is now on, whether the 1970s and maybe the 80s to a degree is now also on trial. Do you think is that part of the culture has changed so much?
Yes, I think I think I'm of the opinion that history is virtually impossible. For the older generation to describe what it was like living through a war. I mean, I did my best to listen and to ask the questions, but I think at the end, words fail you, and it would be cheeky and trivialising of the war to say, well, an older generation lived through that, but yeah, we survived the 70s. But there are some aspects of the 70s you think, blimey, did that really happen? Did you see there was
not least
series,
the cooking.
Well, exactly, yeah.
How we're not all dead. Here? Some of the things we ate in the 70s, I don't know why we're all dead now, but there you go. Yeah, sorry, go on, yeah.
No, I'm amazed blood still courses through my my veins. Talking about fatbergs, I must have those at a kind of archery level. Yeah. But there was a series, It Was All Right in, and then it was 60s, 70s and 80s. Did you catch any of that?
Yes, I did,
it's quite amazing what just passed for... TV that was sticking with the 70s. What would have been considered acceptable then? That they would have triggered numerous meetings, such as you and I have been in, to sort of thrash out these issues in later years.
Did you get the sense? And I just thought it was because I'd lived through it. That this is how I viewed it. Would they get the sense of that kind of thing, that it's all gone a bit snowflake, as they tend to call it nowadays? Is the sensitivities and the you can't say those words and all those kind of things. I didn't enjoy those programs because they, like all these younger comedians and contributors sat there being all po-faced about, and you think, well, you weren't even there, mate. How can you even judge what the context was? In the 1970s, and I found it a bit. I didn't watch it all in the end because I found it all a bit annoying, really. But I don't know. Did you get that sense or not?
I find it's a very mixed picture. I don't think I can kind of summarise it with one answer, because I think there were genuine concerns. I was just thinking today, I saw a sticker on, I think it's on a lamppost back in the 70s, and it was my first time I think I'd read the word lesbian. It was for a lesbian line, which must have been a phone line back in the 70s, and it was
or
on
something to do with washing, maybe. I don't know.
Well, it could be, or was it Lebanese? Maybe I misread it, but blowing it up out of all proportion.
It's not on the Underground, is it?
Well, no, it was about it was using the roundel of the Underground, the circle with the line across, which people would be familiar with.
Oh, lesbian line, that's clever, that is, yeah.
Well, exactly, and it said, and here's the payoff. It said underneath, it said, "We're not underground anymore." And of course, 1967 is when the bulk of homosexual offences, although lesbianism, I don't think was even included in that, was it?
No, we're British again. We didn't mention it.
No sex, please. In fact, I hope you're going to cut this bit out of the show, because I'm deeply embarrassed talking about it.
We just pretend it didn't happen. If we didn't want, if we didn't like anything, we just ignored it. We just don't talk about it. Yeah,
exactly.
Back to your story. The 58% of those aged between 18 and 34 are clear of what constitutes sexual harassment. Rather, 58% are clear. 38% are confused. What does that say for the future? And I ask this question seriously. It sounds frivolous even when I say it in my head, but I ask it seriously. What does that do to the future of dating? I mean, seriously. Do you know, like if you're on a date and with somebody and you touch their knee, does that? That's sexual harassment. Do you know what I mean? Is that where we're heading, or am I being a bit snowflake about it all now?
Oh gosh, I don't know. You'd have to ask the youth of today. To some people, it's very black and white, isn't it? I mean, certainly when it comes to sexual assault and
clear, isn't it? I mean, you know exactly.
No
what
means
we're
no,
talking
yes
about.
means yes.
Yeah.
But the hand on the knee, well, that can be misreading, can't it? But I think there just has to be a bit of give and take on that kind of thing. The lesser stuff.
Well, all right then. I'll take my hand off your knee then. Okay.
But you can answer the correspondence.
Well, it leads on kind of nicely, actually, Adrian, from what you were saying about the 1970s and the language that we used and the things that we said and the things that we didn't talk about. There's a story doing the rounds in Canada at the moment that you can say the F word on radio. I was amazed to see this. Both got a radio background, both you and I, but the F word can go uncensored on radio in Canada as long as you say it in French.
Not F for French, is it?
Why would that? Given that, do you know any idea what percentage of Canadians speak French? I have no idea.
Oh gosh, no. But
we said
a minority.
Hang on, how many Canadians? This is what I love about Google. How many Canadians?
I feel I've got to race you now.
French. Well, my typing's absolutely 7.2 million. About 20%. Oh, I said about 25% of the Canadian population. So about 20% of the population, according to this, then would be desperately and deeply offended. But they go, "What did he just say? That is outrageous." Yeah, I can't believe it. It's he's just said the F word in French, which is, I think, still begins with F, doesn't it? I'll have to look that one up in a second.
I think you should, in real time.
They're saying the CBSC, that's the Canadian Broadcasting something or other. Their decision has come after complaints were received about a radio station in Canada which allowed the word, the F word, to be aired twice this year. That's pretty stern stuff for the Canadians. I thought they were supposed to be like a kind of quiet, laid back, and I don't know what the trouble is, all that kind of stuff. But the first incident featured Madonna song. And there was a speech on a women's march on the day after that Donald Trump was inaugurated.
March of a Million or whatever it was. Yeah.
They broadcast it on the news then, so they got the F word as well on there. So now they're saying it's okay as long as you do it in French. Maybe we could adopt something like that for over here, so you can say it as long as you say it in Russian, for example, and it wouldn't be offensive. Do words still offend, do you think? Do you think words are still offensive in this day?
Well, they must do, because they're not simply sounds, are they? Otherwise we wouldn't be understanding each other. Although I struggle because you're a Brumet. But, putting that to one side,
first person ever
it's
to
deeply
understand
offensive. I'm going to get lynched by the entire second biggest city in England. How to make enemies. By the by, the CBSC...
Hurry up, because we're buying a rope and we're coming round your house.
Oh, God. Give me enough rope, like. I'd probably get strung up just for the very poor impersonation of a Brummie accent. But anyway, it's the Canadian Broadcasting Standards Council.
That's it.
Yes, you'd think they were a bit more relaxed than we were over in stiff, starchy England. Yeah, well, words have a history and a pedigree, and yeah, it's all to do with, well, you'll know this as a broadcaster, it's expectations of the audience, isn't it? So if you tune into a late night Channel 4 or Channel 5 effing and jeffing special, you're probably not going to write in to complain because you had it coming, but as it were. But in the daytime, different story, of course.
Well, here's the thing. Let's let people listen to this podcast in on a little secret behind the scenes look at how we put these things together. When we decided that we wanted to do this and we were structuring it and thinking, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to say? You or I can't remember which one of us had the conversation, didn't we? And said, okay, are we going to be swearing? Are we going to be allowed to swear? What's the standard at which we want to use language? And we kind of both agreed that we wanted to keep the same standard that we would if we were broadcasting in the United Kingdom, which is that we wouldn't swear. Now, I'll tell you. Do you want me to go first? I think we should share our thought process as to why you want to do it, why we agreed that, and why, because I think that's quite interesting. Do you want to go first, or shall I?
No, after you, sir.
Okay.
After you.
I find it a little bit juvenile. I've got to be honest with you. Even like you say, late night TV, if you're going to watch late night TV and they're swearing, and I kind of think, a bit disappointed really, because I think you could be as effective, if not more effective, with a more creative use of language. And I find it all a bit, no matter how it's done, I kind of find it a little bit gratuitous. Apart from, and I have to say there's a caveat here, comedians. I don't know why I see comedians differently, and I think comedians will do things differently. And I think, Frankie Boyle, for example, without swearing, if you're not familiar with his work, look him up on YouTube, you'll realise what I mean. But without swearing, he's a completely different entertainer, isn't he, I suppose, in a way. But when you're a radio broadcaster, when you're using speech rather than in a comedic kind of way, in a kind of stand-up delivery kind of way, to me, I always think it sounds really juvenile, really childish, and a little bit affected as well. And so I find it fascinating that it's, you become your own sort of arbiter of what is decent and what isn't decent. When I see it on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and people, and they know their kids have got accounts as well, and they put the F word and the C word and they write, and I think that's just despicable to me. Perhaps I'm old-fashioned, I don't know. That was my rationale. What about you?
Well, mine is, for all the years in broadcasting I've completed, no one's ever complained that I didn't swear enough, and to me that carries a lot of weight, because they would have complained. Believe me, they've complained about all kinds of things. Although, in fairness, I'm going to risk a B word here, but it's perhaps not the most obvious B word. God. And a bit like Kenneth Williams said, if he found any innuendo in the script, he'd whip it out at once. You may choose to edit this, but I got a complaint once because I read a text. I was doing something. It was on the very station where we met, which I hold in high esteem because I hold you in high esteem as a broadcaster, Mr. O'Connor. BBC Radio Derby up in the East Midlands. I was up from where I'm sitting, down and across or whatever. Yeah. Two along, one down for you. It was a text from a woman. The setup was I was trying to get people. Big Brother was really taking off at that stage. I was trying to get people to imagine that I'd created this new show to rival it on some imaginary radio equivalent, and could they give me good reasons that they should be let into my fictitious reality radio, I must have called it, house. Yeah. And this woman wrote, "I've got blonde hair and big boobs." In a text. Now, if anyone's offended by that, I do apologise. Are
you kidding me?
There was someone offended. No, someone complained, and I thought, hang on, I'm quoting a text with very mild language from a woman. I felt pretty sure that even 3 in the afternoon, that would be acceptable. But it just shows you can offend people so easily.
I've only ever had a complaint from a managing, like an editor, a manager.
All right, yeah. Your favourite breed.
Never from a member of the public. And in last week's episode of this very podcast, I think I said crap. And
yes, you did.
Do you know? And I got told off for saying crap on no, which I don't think is, And so it's quite interesting. I wouldn't have said on the radio. I probably wouldn't have said bloody. It's a bloody disgrace, or I think that's crap, which I think is very mild. And if you listen to commercial radio, you'd hear that, wouldn't you, in speech radio?
Yeah.
But here I would. But you wouldn't. You draw the line at the F word, quite obviously. But yeah, I can't believe somebody would complain about boobs. I mean, do these people do they not go out? I mean,
it's almost like they're professionally paid to be upset.
Yeah,
and they're waiting for you to
get your boobs out.
Yeah. Well, fuck, you're not going to see my moobs, pictures or no. But I tell you what, look, what the nation and the world indeed is holding its breath on. It wants to know, or is it just me? Because I'm a gutter broadcaster.
Yes.
I want to know what the F word is in French. Are you going to enlighten us, Shane?
Oh, you see, I've just put it into Google, and I don't know why people check my search history. I've just put it into Google. And it's come up with MERDE, MERDE.
Which is SH1T, isn't it?
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So I wouldn't call that the equivalent.
So I'm confused now.
You're confused. That doesn't even begin with F. It's the M word.
If I change the translation to German, it comes up as a Scheisse.
Which is the same thing again, isn't it?
I thought so. So Google.
I don't think we've answered it yet.
Are we being censored, do you think?
By the Chinese state.
By Google.
Russia.
I don't know what. So that's your homework. If you're listening to the podcast and you want to write in, I tell you what. I was going to say, just for a laugh, on the YouTube, because you can get the pictures on YouTube. If you just search Bull and Specs on YouTube. If you're listening to the audio somewhere else, maybe listen on iTunes or Spreaker, but you can get it on YouTube. Maybe put it in the comments below.
Your favourite section.
But can you put some asterisks in or something? Otherwise, people will tell us off or whatever. But
because Asterix was a Gaul, wasn't he?
He was. Oh, very good. Yeah, but and so. So with that bombshell of dropping the F word or not,
or failing to,
the S word by mistake, that's where we've got to bring our podcast to a close for another week. But we'll be back, won't we?
We will indeed. Like a bad odour. No, it's like a what's the expression? Bad penny. Keep showing up.
Keep turning up, yeah. And as I mentioned, don't forget, if you want to listen to the podcast, if you want to see the pictures, which include, can I give him a kitten bonus? Because the kitten's
I want the kitten bonus.
There's a quick there you go. There's a quick kitten bonus for you there. If you're listening on YouTube, you can see the pictures. If you listen to the audio version, you think, what's a kitten bonus? Is that? Well, you'll have to watch, won't you, to find out.
That might sound like its own kind of swear word, but I can assure you it isn't.
If you come here next week and we'll offer you another kitten bonus, you can be assured. But in the audio you can hear on iTunes and on Spreaker just by searching Bull and Specs, and also you can see the picture version on YouTube. But that's it for this week. So goodbye from me,
and it's goodbye from him.